In June 1988, 23-year-old Philip Innes Fraser embarked on a journey from his hometown of Anchorage, Alaska, to Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington. Philip would never arrive, sparking decades of speculation about who's responsible for what happened to him. The son of two prominent physicians, Philip was known for his love of the outdoors and his talent as a violinist. His trip was fraught with delays, including complications at the Canadian border, where his legal weapons were confiscated. And keep this in mind because this may have sealed his fate. On June 18, 1988, Philip stopped at the 40 Mile Flats Cafe in British Columbia, approximately 600 miles south of the Alaska border. There, he encountered a hitchhiker described as a Caucasian male, around 5 feet 9 inches tall, weighing 225 pounds, with brown hair and eyes, and appearing to be between 20 and 25 years old. Despite initial hesitation, Philip agreed to give the man a ride. And when I say hesitation, the owners of the cafe observed that he told the hitchhiker to essentially get lost. However, they also observed the hitchhiker chasing Philip's vehicle as he tried to pull out of the parking lot, and Philip, against his better judgment, let him in the vehicle. Approximately 8 hours later, and 200 miles south of the cafe, the hitchhiker was found by a couple in Kitwanga, British Columbia, claiming to be Philip Fraser from Anchorage. The couple found the man to be very odd, but they allowed him to stay over because he claimed he was having car troubles. Despite claiming to be Philip, the man was, you guessed it, a chubby Caucasian male with brown hair and brown eyes, appearing to be about 20 to 25 years old. He spent the night at their home and attempted to sell Philip's car to them, further arousing their suspicions due to his nervous behavior and possession of 2 wallets. The following day, Philip's burned-out 1983 Volkswagen Jetta was discovered at a car wash in Prince George, British Columbia. 6 weeks later, on July 27, 1988, Philip's body was found in a gravel turnaround near Highway 37, about 47 kilometers east of Stewart, British Columbia. The hitchhiker, who remains unidentified, is the prime suspect in Philip's slaying. Investigators believe he assumed Philip's identity after the ending, as Philip's credit cards, checkbook, passport, and birth certificate have never been found. Notably, whether any of these documents were ever used for financial transactions or any other purpose remains unknown, at least to the general public. As always with open investigations, information is released to the public on a need-to-know basis. Despite a composite sketch and witness descriptions all describing someone who's clearly the same man, the case remains unsolved nearly 4 decades later. Over the years, there's been speculation linking Canadian serial perpetrator Michael Wayne McGray to Philip, as McGray was active during that time and matched the suspect's description. However, sources within the Royal Canadian Mounted Police have reportedly ruled him out as a suspect, and he was largely active on the East Coast, not the West Coast. Also, while sources state that he matches the description of the perpetrator in this case, personally I'm not seeing it at all. And if you're just watching, I've put one of the sketches side by side with McGray. It's hard not to wonder whether Philip's story might have played out very differently if the Canadian authorities hadn't confiscated his legal weapons. Maybe he would have had some way to defend himself, or maybe it wouldn't have mattered. We'll never really know, but it's an unfortunately haunting what if. What seems clear is that his decision to let that hitchhiker into his car, despite his initial gut feeling, turned out to be a tragic turning point. The fact that the hitchhiker then pretended to be Philip and tried to sell his car says a lot about the killer's brazenness. It's possible he was just seizing an opportunity to escape his own circumstances, financial troubles, a criminal past, or something else entirely. But we're still missing huge pieces of the puzzle, like what happened to Philip's credit cards, passport, and other documents. Maybe the RCMP is keeping some details under wraps so that only the real perpetrator would know them. Maybe someday we'll get that vital tip or piece of evidence that finally identifies the mysterious hitchhiker. Until then, Philip Fraser's tragic story stands as a stark reminder that sometimes, even a small act of kindness, like offering a stranger a ride, can have devastating consequences. Philip Taylor Kramer, born on July 12, 1952, in Youngstown, Ohio, was a multifaceted individual whose life encompassed great success in both music and engineering. He's perhaps best remembered as the bassist for the rock band Iron Butterfly during the mid-1970s. Kramer joined Iron Butterfly in 1974, a band that was then trying to recapture the magic of their 1968 hit, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. Also, I can't be the only one who thinks of that one Simpsons scene where Bart and Milhouse have their church perform the song as a hymn whenever this song comes up, right? Or perhaps I've just had too many Simpsons episodes on in the background lately. Anyway, I've gone totally off script here. Let's get back to the mystery. He contributed to the band's later works, playing on two albums, Scorching Beauty and Sun and Steel, both released in 1975. Despite these efforts, the albums didn't achieve significant commercial success, and the band eventually broke up. Following his departure from the music scene, Kramer pursued a career in engineering. He earned a degree in aerospace engineering and worked on the MX missile guidance system for a contractor of the U.S. Department of Defense. Kramer's engineering pursuits extended into the then burgeoning field of computer technology. In 1990, he co-founded Total Multimedia Inc. with Randy Jackson. No, not that Randy Jackson. The other Randy Jackson, Michael Jackson's brother. The company claimed to have developed the first video compression capable of producing full-motion video from a CD-ROM in 1992. Kramer also worked on facial recognition systems and advanced communication systems. Regarding the latter, he launched a project that purportedly involved faster-than-light communication, challenging established scientific theories. Keep this latter part in mind because we're going to come back to it shortly. On February 12, 1995, Kramer disappeared under mysterious circumstances. He was en route to Los Angeles International Airport to pick up a business associate and the associate's wife. During his travel, Kramer made several phone calls, including to his wife and former Iron Butterfly bandmate Ron Bushy. In a final call to the police, he stated, "I want everyone to know O.J. Simpson is innocent. They did it." He also stated that he would be engaging in self-deletion activities. Prior to his disappearance, Kramer had been hired to analyze the authenticity of a videotape related to the O.J. trial. Following this call, he vanished, prompting a widespread search and media coverage. Kramer's disappearance led to numerous theories and speculations. Some suggested that his work in advanced technologies, particularly his claims about faster-than-light communication, made him a target for foul play. Additionally, his involvement in analyzing evidence related to the Simpson case fueled further conjecture. Some claimed rogue elements in the LAPD may have had their hand in his disappearance at worst, or that the authorities weren't overly eager to investigate at best. Despite these theories, no concrete evidence emerged to support claims of foul play. On May 29, 1999, over 4 years after his disappearance, Kramer's remains were discovered inside his wrecked minivan at the bottom of Decker Canyon near Malibu, California. The Ventura County Coroner's Office ruled the death as a probable self-deletion. However, Kramer's family, particularly his father, expressed doubts about this conclusion. His father stated that Kramer had previously mentioned being threatened and had explicitly told him that if he ever makes threats of a self-deletionary nature, they aren't real. These statements have led some to continue questioning the true nature of his death. The nobody theory began gaining traction on 4chan around 2018, particularly on the X board, which is dedicated to paranormal and conspiracy discussions. Unlike many conspiracy theories that focus on specific events or figures, the nobody theory is centered around a mysterious, nameless individual referred to as the nobody. According to the theory, nobody is an enlightened being who possesses deep, almost godlike wisdom and is aware of the true nature of reality. He is believed to be working behind the scenes to bring about significant changes in the world, although his exact motivations and methods are deliberately obscured. The identity of nobody is never revealed, adding to the allure and mystery of the theory. Proponents suggest that nobody could be absolutely anyone, and theories suggest this figure is much more likely to be the individual you would least expect. This figure is seen as both a savior and a disruptor, someone who will challenge the existing power structures, but also possess a moral compass that is beyond human understanding. One of the key reasons for the appeal of the nobody conspiracy theory lies in its open-ended nature. Unlike more rigid conspiracy theories, which tend to provide a clear narrative with identifiable villains and heroes, the nobody theory is vague and flexible. The anonymity and ambiguity of the nobody potentially resonates with the anonymous culture of the site and the board, where anonymity is a core principle. The structure of the theory relies heavily on cryptic posts and discussions, often laden with references to philosophy, esotericism, and occultism. The theory's roots also mean that it is often presented with a mix of irony and sincerity. This makes it extremely difficult to discern whether proponents truly believe in the theory or are engaging in a form of modern myth-making. Anyway, if the nobody's real and is listening right now, try giving worldwide economic stability and peace a shot instead of, the usual stuff. Hey, it's your boy Jimmy here with a quick shout out to all my subscribers, patrons, and YouTube members. You're the coolest cats around. Now let's get back to it. Chaos magic is an unconventional and highly flexible form of modern occultism that emphasizes personal experimentation and the fluidity of belief systems. Emerging in the late 20th century, chaos magic gained momentum in the 1970s, with key texts such as Liber Null by Peter J. Carroll and The Book of Results by Ray Sherwin. These works laid the foundation for a practice rooted in pragmatism and innovation, allowing practitioners to draw from a wide range of magical traditions and psychological techniques. One of the most fundamental tenets of chaos magic is the concept of belief as a tool. Unlike other magical traditions that require adherence to specific deities or rituals, chaos magicians view belief itself as something that can be shaped and manipulated. The only purpose of belief in this system is to achieve desired outcomes. This approach allows for a level of flexibility and adaptability that is rare in more traditional forms of magic. By shifting beliefs, the practitioner can adopt new perspectives, experiment with different techniques, and ultimately create a system of magic that is uniquely their own. The practice of sigillization, popularized by artist and occultist Austin Osman Spare, is a central technique in chaos magic. Sigils are symbols crafted to represent a specific intention or desire. The process involves creating a sigil, charging it with emotional or psychic energy, and then allowing it to sink into the subconscious mind, where it can work its magic unnoticed by the conscious mind. Another critical concept in chaos magic is gnosis, a heightened state of consciousness that is believed to increase the practitioner's ability to influence reality. Gnosis can be achieved through a variety of means, including meditation, chanting, drumming, and even more extreme practices such as sensory deprivation, physical exhaustion, or other activities. The goal is to bypass the rational mind and reach a state where the magician's will can operate more freely. This mirrors techniques found in other mystical traditions but is stripped of their religious or dogmatic frameworks, allowing the practitioner to remain untethered from any specific system. A defining feature of chaos magic is its embrace of paradigm shifting. Practitioners are encouraged to adopt and discard belief systems as necessary to achieve their magical goals. For instance, practitioners are encouraged to adopt completely different worldviews, depending on something as simple as the roll of a set of dice. For instance, a certain roll could indicate that the practitioner adopts a Norse pagan worldview for 6 months. Another roll, for instance, could have the same person adopting a Christian worldview for the next 6 years. This process, often referred to as belief as a tool, allows the magician to use various cultural or psychological models to shape their reality. The fluidity with which chaos magicians shift their paradigms is both a strength and a source of controversy. Some critics argue that this approach lacks the ethical grounding found in more structured religious, spiritual, and occult traditions. However, advocates of chaos magic argue that its adaptability is precisely what makes it effective in an era where rigid belief systems often fail to accommodate modern life. Fundamentally, chaos magic is an occult system which rejects the existence of absolute truth and further rejects all religious, spiritual, and occult traditions that came before it. Augury was an important part of ancient Roman religion, where people used signs from nature, particularly birds, to understand the will of the gods. Augurs were the religious officials responsible for interpreting these signs. They didn't predict the future in a modern sense, but instead determined if the gods approved of a planned action, like starting a war or electing a new leader. In Rome, birds were seen as messengers of the gods. Augurs would carefully watch how birds flew, sang, or ate, to figure out if the gods were sending a good or bad message. There were 2 types of birds used for these interpretations. One type made predictions by how they sang, and the other by how they flew. The practice of taking the auspices often referred to watching birds in this way to understand what the gods wanted. It wasn't just birds that could be signs from the gods. Augurs also interpreted other natural events, like lightning or thunder. Sometimes even small everyday things like sneezing or stumbling could be seen as messages from the gods. These signs were either deliberately sought out by an augur or happened randomly during rituals or public events. Augury wasn't just about religion. It was also a powerful tool in Roman politics. Augurs were involved in all kinds of important public events, from elections to military campaigns. Romans were highly religious and superstitious, and no major public action would happen without getting a yes from the gods. The Romans believed that ignoring the signs could lead to disaster, so the augurs' interpretations held a lot of weight. Originally, only the Roman upper class, called patricians, could become augurs. This meant that they controlled what was seen as the will of the gods. Augury followed strict procedures. The augur would stand in a sacred area and use a special curved staff to mark out the space in the sky where they'd watch for signs. This area was considered holy, and within it, the augur believed they could properly connect with the gods and understand their will. Another way augury was practiced was by watching sacred chickens. Yes, you heard me correctly, holy chickens. The augur would watch how these chickens ate. If they ate eagerly and food dropped from their beaks, it was considered a good sign. If they refused to eat, made strange noises, or acted out of the ordinary, displaying unnatural chicken behavior, it was a bad omen. As Christianity spread throughout the Roman Empire, the practice of augury gradually declined and eventually disappeared. Remote viewing is a phenomenon that claims to allow individuals to perceive and describe information about distant or unseen targets through non-physical means. RV is typically described as extrasensory perception, or sensing with the mind. This concept has intrigued many, drawing both believers and skeptics, and has even garnered attention from government agencies, leading to its study under various secret programs. The formal investigation of remote viewing as a scientific endeavor began in the 20th century, with significant contributions from researchers like Ingo Swann. These researchers were among the first to conduct controlled experiments in remote viewing, particularly under the auspices of the Stanford Research Institute in the early 1970s. One of the most notable early experiments involved the psychic Ingo Swann, who was tested for his ability to describe objects and events located at a distance. These experiments at SRI reportedly yielded positive results, leading to further interest and funding from various branches of the U.S. military and intelligence communities. This period marked the beginning of a more organized and funded approach to studying remote viewing, culminating in the establishment of the Stargate Project. The Stargate Project was a secret U.S. Army unit established in the late 1970s, aimed at exploring the potential military applications of psychic phenomena, including remote viewing. This project, which ran until 1995, was motivated by reports that the Soviet Union was heavily investing in similar research. There was a significant concern that they might develop psychic capabilities that could be used against the United States or American allies. Under the Stargate Project, remote viewers were tasked with various missions, including locating hostages, identifying the locations of weapons, and gathering intelligence on enemy positions. Proponents of the project claimed some successes, such as the alleged remote viewing of a lost Soviet aircraft in 1976. However, the project was fraught with controversy and skepticism, particularly from the scientific community, which criticized the methodologies used and the reliability of the results. One of the primary criticisms is the lack of repeatability in remote viewing experiments. Many studies have reported positive results, but these results often fail to be replicated in subsequent experiments, leading to questions about the validity of the findings. Furthermore, methodological flaws have been pointed out in many of the early remote viewing experiments. Issues such as the possibility of sensory leakage have been raised. This is where the remote viewer could have received unintentional cues about the target tainting the results. These issues have cast doubt on the legitimacy of the results. These concerns have led many in the scientific community to classify remote viewing as pseudoscience, despite its continued popularity among certain groups and researchers. One notable figure in RV is Joseph McMoneagle, a retired U.S. Army officer who participated in the Stargate Project and is often cited as one of the most successful remote viewers. This dude claimed to have been involved in numerous successful remote viewing operations, although these claims are often disputed by skeptics. The Stargate Project's association with remote viewing gave the phenomenon a degree of legitimacy that it might not have achieved otherwise. The project received considerable funding over its two-decade existence, with the Pentagon and the Defense Intelligence Agency both playing a role. However, by the early 1990s, the project's utility was increasingly questioned. Consequently, the CIA terminated the Stargate Project in 1995, marking the end of open official U.S. government research into remote viewing. The idea that remote viewing is still an ongoing government research project has persisted as a conspiracy theory for many years, despite the official closure of the Stargate Project. Proponents of this theory argue that the U.S. government continued to secretly fund and conduct research into remote viewing, motivated by its potential intelligence applications. One of the central claims supporting this theory is that the public termination of the Stargate Project was merely a facade, designed to remove the controversial research from public scrutiny. The rationale behind this theory is that the government would not abandon a project that had any potential strategic value. Particularly, observers have noted that if adversarial nations like Russia or China were believed to be exploring similar research, the US government would not want to allow them any potential edge. Supporters of this theory often cite the secrecy that surrounded the Stargate project and the broader field of remote viewing research. The project was highly classified for many years, and only a fraction of the related documents have been declassified. To quote one of my favorite shows, I want to believe, but I'm suspicious about this program in general. It's entirely plausible that remote viewing research functioned less as a genuine pursuit of psychic phenomena and more as a strategic head fake aimed at the US's adversaries. If the government's real intention was to plant seeds of doubt and paranoia in the minds of rival intelligence agencies, this would have been the best way to do so. Publicizing these secret programs and their supposedly miraculous feats could have been an ingenious ploy. Under this theory, at worst, it was a low-cost psychological operation that sowed just enough confusion to keep adversaries scrambling, even if the science itself never truly held up. In this view, the persistent rumors and conspiracy theories that the project quietly lives on might be its biggest success. Nothing says effective psyop quite like never letting the story die.